Hi, I'm Sarah. Today I'm going to share the story of Polly, though that's just what I call it. After another extravagant party, I ended up spending $2,500. I told my family we need to start cutting back. I can't keep funding this anymore. They just laughed and insisted on paying for my brother's birthday at the fanciest restaurant in town. I sent them $5 and turned off my phone. Well, here's my story. My name is Polly and I'm 27. Everything really started falling apart when I was 16. That's when my family's life took a nosedive. Dad lost his job at the manufacturing plant where he'd worked for 15 years. One day he came home with his usual tired grin, and the next he was slumped over the kitchen table, head in his hands, telling Mom that his entire department had been downsized. Weeks passed. Dad applied everywhere: retail, warehouses, factories, nothing. Meanwhile, the bills kept piling up: electricity, gas, water, rent, groceries. My little brother, Danny, was 14 then, glued to his video games, completely oblivious to how bad things were. I remember the exact moment I decided to step in. Mom was crying over a mountain of bills. Dad pretended to read the newspaper, and Danny was likely immersed in another online war game. "I'm getting a job," I announced. There was a cafe downtown hiring, and I could work after school and on weekends. My parents didn't argue. They just nodded, relieved that someone was doing something. So I started at Sunnyside Cafe, serving coffee and sandwiches to office workers and college students. Mrs. Rodriguez, the manager, was kind and flexible with my school schedule. I would rush from class to the bus and spend 4 hours making lattes and cleaning tables. Every 2 weeks, I brought my paycheck straight home to Mom. She always looked relieved but guilty at the same time, like she wanted to hug me and apologize all at once. A year later, Dad found work at a smaller company. It didn't pay as much as before, but at least it was something. I thought finally I could cut back at the cafe. But when I suggested fewer hours, Mom reminded me Danny had started taking basketball seriously. Travel teams, tournaments, shoes, gear, it all cost money. So I kept working, every paycheck going to support my family. Oddly, I was proud of myself. My grades stayed strong. I felt responsible. I was helping my family. Senior year came, and college acceptance letters started arriving. I got a full scholarship to State University. Tuition, books, everything covered. It was close enough to live at home, so I could still work and help out. Mom worried a little at first, but when I promised I could balance both, her face lit up. College started, and I kept my cafe job. Classes during the day, work in the evenings. I was constantly tired, but seeing Mom's grateful smile every time I handed over my paycheck made it worth it. Meanwhile, Danny, now 18, spent his days gaming or hanging out with friends, never working or contributing financially. I assumed once he graduated, he'd pitch in. One night, after a grueling shift, we were sitting at dinner. Danny was talking about a new game he wanted. Something inside me snapped. "Why don't you get a job?" I asked. The table went silent. My parents stared at me like I'd grown another head. "It's different for Danny," Mom said slowly. "He needs to focus on school and college prep. He can't be distracted by work." I looked at them, at Danny, just sitting there, letting them defend him. They didn't see the irony that I'd been working and studying for 2 years straight. I didn't argue. The point was obvious enough. That pattern continued through college. I worked, studied, and handed over my earnings, while Danny coasted through life without lifting a finger. After graduation, with a marketing degree in hand, I knew I had to leave home. I found a job at a solid marketing firm and started apartment hunting. "Why do you want to move out?" Mom asked. "You'd save so much money living here." "I need independence," I said. But what I really meant was, if I stayed, they'd take every penny I earned and I'd never have anything for myself. They tried to convince me to stay. Dad talked about family values. Mom cried and called me selfish, and Danny didn't seem to care either way. But I moved into a tiny, overpriced one-bedroom apartment. It gave me space to breathe, even if it strained my budget. Of course, I couldn't cut them off completely, but I finally had some control over my life. I felt trapped under the weight of responsibility, Guilty for all the years my parents had supported me through college while I juggled part-time jobs. And now, more than a decade later, I was stuck in the same pattern. I worked at Henderson Marketing, a decent company with solid benefits, but in terms of financial freedom, it might as well have been that old cafe I'd waited tables at. Every month, like clockwork, $2,000 vanished from my account and ended up in my mom's. That afternoon, I was knee-deep in reviewing a campaign for some overpriced handbag line when my phone started buzzing. Mom's name lit up the screen. I ignored it, letting it go to voicemail. I was at work, after all. But the calls kept coming. On the fifth ring, I picked up. "Hi, Mom. Polly." Her voice was full of excitement, practically singing. "I have the most wonderful news." I rubbed my forehead. When Mom sounded this thrilled, it usually meant a big expense for me. "What's going on?" I asked, keeping my voice low. "We're having a family party, a huge one. Everyone's coming. Aunt Martha, Uncle Pete, cousins from Ohio, you name it. It's going to be magical." My stomach sank. "A party? What now? Do we even need a reason to celebrate family?" She laughed. "I've been planning for weeks. There'll be a barbecue, a DJ, a bounce house for the kids, and the caterer is amazing." Every detail felt like another hit to my wallet. "Mom, that sounds expensive. How much are we talking?" "Well, that's why I'm calling, sweetie. We need $2,500. I almost dropped the phone. $500? Are you kidding me?" Her voice shifted instantly to that practiced, wounded tone. "I thought you'd be happy to bring the family together. We haven't had a proper party in ages." "Mom, that's because proper parties cost money we don't have." My voice was rising before I even realized it. "We're expecting 30 people," she said. "Food is $800. That's already a deal from Maria's Catering. The DJ is $500, bounce house $300, plus decorations, drinks, tables, chairs." She rattled off the cost like she was reading a shopping list. I did the math in my head and felt sick. "Why don't we keep it simple?" I suggested. "Burgers and potato salad at home, music from someone's phone. Kids can play in the yard without a bounce house." A long silence followed. "I see," Mom said finally, her voice freezing. "I should have known you wouldn't want to help. You've never liked me anyway." And she hung up. I called back immediately, straight to voicemail. I tried again 5 minutes later. Nothing. Her silent treatment was a classic move. The rest of my workday evaporated. I couldn't concentrate. Every few minutes, I checked my phone, hoping for a message, a missed call, any sign of reconciliation. Guilt gnawed at me. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was selfish. $2,500 wasn't a fortune. I could manage it, but I didn't want to. By 9 p.m., I broke. I opened my banking app and transferred the money with a note. "Love you, Mom." My emergency fund, painstakingly saved, was gone. 2 minutes later, my phone buzzed. "Oh, sweetheart. Thank you so much. I knew you'd come through. You're such a good daughter. Sorry I got upset earlier. This party is going to be perfect." The week leading up to the party, Mom bombarded me with messages. Pictures of decorations, menu updates, excitement over relatives flying in. Each message made my chest tighten. When Saturday arrived, I drove to my parents' house feeling torn. Part of me was curious to see what $2,500 had bought. Another part dreaded it. The backyard was unrecognizable. String lights crisscrossed overhead. Tables were arranged with pristine linens. A professional DJ setup towered in the corner, and the bounce house was enormous. Far more than needed for the handful of children attending. Amazing, right? Aunt Martha hugged me as I walked through the gate. "Can you believe your mom did all this? She's incredible." I forced a smile. "Yes, really something," I said quietly. The party was in full swing. 30 guests, catered food, music blasting from the DJ speakers. All around me, everyone laughed and danced, oblivious to the financial storm I'd endured to make it happen. Everyone kept praising Mom, telling her what an incredible host she was, how she anticipated every detail, and how this had to be the best family gathering they'd ever attended. Mom soaked it all in, glowing as she moved from guest to guest, graciously accepting compliments like she'd orchestrated a masterpiece. Your mother is so generous, my cousin Lisa said to me. She must have spent a fortune on all of this. I just nodded and took another sip of my beer, thinking how little they knew about where that fortune really came from. Then there was Danny. He was 25 now, technically an adult, yet he spent the evening lounging around, phone in hand, barely interacting. When people asked him what he was doing, he'd offer vague replies about looking for opportunities or taking time to figure things out. Meanwhile, I was painfully aware that I was the one footing the bill for his carefree night. Money I didn't really have to spare. As the party wound down and the last guest left, Mom asked me to help with the cleanup. It wasn't a request. It was more like a command disguised politely. Once the dishes were washed and the living room restored to order, I collapsed onto the couch with Mom, Dad, and Danny. I was drained, ready to leave, but a rising frustration I'd held in all night finally erupted. We need to talk, I said, putting down the glass I'd been holding. They all turned to me. Dad was half asleep in his recliner. Mom was busy counting leftover napkins, and Danny was still glued to his phone. I can't keep doing this, I began. I can't keep supporting everyone financially. At first, there was silence. Then Danny looked up and laughed, full-throated, like I'd said something absurd. What's so funny? I demanded. Mom joined in, giggling as though I'd made a joke, and even Dad cracked a small smile. Oh, honey, Mom said, wiping her eyes, you're overreacting. This is just how our family operates. We help each other. Why would you want to change that? Because I'm 27 years old, I said, and I can't save anything for my future. I want to buy a house someday. I want something of my own. You already have your apartment, Danny interjected, as if that solved the problem. It's a tiny rental that costs a fortune, I snapped. I can barely afford anything better. Do you even know what I spent last month on myself? Or what I ate for dinner last night? Instant noodles. That's your choice, Mom said. You're literally forcing me into it by taking $2,000 every month, I shot back. We're not taking anything, Dad said finally. You give because you want to help your family. The argument was going in circles. I tried a different approach. Look at tonight. I paid $2,500 for this party. Everyone is congratulating you, Mom, on a beautiful event, but I'm the one eating ramen for the next month because my emergency fund is gone. The party was perfect, Mom said firmly. Everyone had a great time. Family is about sacrifice. Why is it always my sacrifice? I demanded. When has Danny ever sacrificed anything? Danny finally put down his phone and looked at me like I'd lost my mind. I'm still figuring out my career, he said. You're 25, I reminded him. I started working at 16. You've had 9 years to figure out your career. Times may be different, but not that different. Mom jumped in. It's harder for young people to find the right jobs. Danny needs time to find his path. And what about my opportunities? I asked. What about what I want? Mom's face hardened. What you want is selfish. We raised you, supported you through college. Now it's your turn to support us. I looked around. Dad nodded along. Danny scrolled on his phone as if the conversation didn't concern him. Mom's set jaw told me the discussion was over. If you don't want to help your family, she said coldly, maybe you should just go home. So I left. I drove back to my apartment through a blur of angry tears, too frustrated to think straight. That night, sleep was impossible. I kept replaying the confrontation, thinking of the things I should have said. By morning, I made a decision. I wouldn't call or text them, but I also wouldn't stop sending them monthly money, not yet. I needed time to figure out my next move. A month went by in silence, which was almost peaceful. I sent the usual $2,000 on the first of the month. No thank you text this time, and I didn't care. Then, one Tuesday afternoon, my phone rang. Mom was on the line. Danny's 25th birthday is next Saturday, she said, skipping greetings. We're having dinner at Romano's. The whole family's coming, 35 people. We've reserved the private room. It'll be absolutely perfect. My stomach sank. How much? I asked. $3,000. But don't worry, she said breezily. Everything's booked. You just need to handle the payment. I felt sick. Mom, I don't have $3,000 right now. Of course you do, she replied. You make good money. I sent you $2,000 just last week. You'll figure it out. What if I can't come? I asked, my voice tight. Mom actually laughed when I called. You don't have to come. Just make sure the money's there. Then she hung up. Again, I stared at my phone, something shifting inside me. Calmly, I opened my banking app and canceled the automatic transfer I had set for next month, $2,000 that had been leaving my account like clockwork. Then I waited. Saturday came and went, Di's birthday, and I sent a quick text, Happy 25th. Hope you have an amazing day. 2 hours later, he replied, Thanks. Don't forget the $3,000. I smiled, tucked my phone away, and let the day pass. That evening, I imagined them at Romano's, probably ordering the priciest dishes on the menu. Around 8 p.m., my phone started buzzing nonstop. Messages from Mom, where's the money? Polly, we need to pay soon. The restaurant is asking about the bill. Polly, answer your phone. I ignored every single one. Then, for a small, quiet victory, I transferred $5 to Mom's account with the memo. This is what you deserve. After that, I shut off my phone, made myself a cup of tea, ate a leftover slice of cake, took a long shower, and went to bed. It was the best night's sleep I'd had in years. Sunday morning, when I turned my phone back on, I had 37 missed calls and 63 text messages. It was like watching someone go through the 5 stages of grief in real time. Anger. How could you do this to us? You humiliated the whole family. We had to put $3,000 on a credit card because of you. Panic. Please call us back. We need to talk. This isn't like you. We're worried about you. Bargaining. If you pay us back, we'll forget this ever happened. Maybe we can work out a payment plan. Depression. I can't believe my own daughter would abandon us. Your father is heartbroken. How could you be so selfish? Acceptance with blame. Fine. We know who you really are now. Don't expect us to help you when you need it. I sipped my coffee and read every word, feeling lighter than I had in years. Around noon, there was pounding at my door. Through the peephole, I saw all 3 of them, Mom, Dad, and Danny, looking furious. I knew this confrontation was inevitable, so I opened the door. How could you do this to us? Mom yelled the moment she stepped inside. Do you know what you put us through last night? I have a pretty good idea, I said calmly, stepping aside to let them in. We had to put $3,000 on a credit card. Dad barked. $3,000? We don't have it, I replied. Sounds like a you problem. Danny stepped forward, trying to look intimidating. You need to pay us back right now. I'm not paying anything, I said. Yes, you embarrassed us in front of the whole family. Mom pressed. Good, I said. Maybe now you understand how I've felt for the past 11 years. This is different. Dad's voice hardened. We're your family. We raised you, and I've been paying you back since you were 16. When does the debt end? I asked. When am I allowed to live my own life? Never, Mom said flatly. Family takes care of family. That's how it works. Not anymore, I said. I'm done. No more monthly payments, no more emergency funds for your parties, no more anything. You're all adults. Handle it yourselves. Danny scoffed. You can't be serious. I am. I'm cutting you all off completely. Mom's voice was desperate. We won't be there for you when you need us. Please do. I laughed so hard I cried. It would make me happier than anything. Let's see how you manage without me. They tried every guilt trip and manipulation tactic, but I wasn't budging. Finally, they left. I locked the door and felt a wave of relief wash over me. The next few weeks were rough. They called constantly, texted from blocked numbers, and even sent relatives to lecture me. Aunt Martha left a 20-minute voicemail about loyalty. Uncle Pete sent texts about respecting elders. Cousin Lisa emailed a dissertation about disappointment. I blocked them all. 6 months later, my life had changed completely. Without the $2,000 monthly drain, I had actual money left after paying bills. I opened a proper savings account, bought clothes that weren't from clearance racks, and dined out at real restaurants instead of surviving on ramen. Through family gossip, I learned that Danny had finally gotten a warehouse job after the money stopped coming. Mom picked up extra shifts at her part-time job, now working full-time. Dad looked into weekend work. They weren't living the lavish lifestyle they'd grown used to, but they were surviving. Meanwhile, I started looking at houses, not rentals, but real homes I could afford with a real down payment. I found a cozy 2-bedroom and put in an offer. When my real estate agent asked if my family was excited, I told her the truth. I don't have a family. For the first time, it didn't feel like loss. It felt like freedom. After 11 years, I finally realized I didn't owe my future to people who had only ever taken from me. Setting boundaries had been terrifying, but it was the best decision I'd ever made.